ease.
Reporting as ordered, Imperator. Forktail is back in a cage where he belongs. Here's the Legionnaire who discovered the Flame Legion's plot.
It's not over yet, sir. Flarekin and his shamans are planning to attack these chambers with a deadly new magic.
Let them. The day we run from the Flame Legion is the day we start forging wind-up toys instead of siege engines. We'll meet them head-on. Fight beside me, Legionnaire. You've earned it. Secure the entryway. Behold the power of the Flame Legion. The Black Citadel's rule ends now.
Anger rising. Furia blood! Retaliation incoming!
Well done, everyone. The Flame Legion may have false gods, but they don't have a prayer. I'll add another commendation to your record, Legionnaire. It would have been bad here without your warning.
What? Just what is this? This is the most frustrating thing I've been dealing with for a while. I really wanted to talk to you guys about this. This isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, and alright, I get it, I appreciate it. Not many of us out there in the community right now care very much about the personal story. Let's face it, it's a shoddy experience most of us have given up on. We have our eyes to the future, we have our eyes to Heart of Thorns and what lies beyond and the level 80 content they can put in. But I'm really concerned about this. Those of you following me will know, especially those of you who are following me on Twitter, will know that I'm trying to develop something of a challenge. I could be streaming on Twitch one day that is supposed to bring the joy back to leveling a new character, exploring the world, and yes, playing the personal story. Something repeatable, something that encourages you to make lots of new characters and relish in making different decisions, see what mistakes you made, and ultimately, eventually, hopefully, be able to defeat Zaitan at the very end. It's a really cool vision I've got in my head. I tried it last year and actually leveled my Ranger under kind of a strict rule set. But with recent changes to the game, Feature Pack 2, namely, it's just impossible to care that much while leveling a toon. What you just saw, guys, was this character. This is my Guardian, my first real Guardian that I'm playing and trying to level. I'm trying to play her as like a permadeathy character, and I'm enforcing a lot of rules on myself that mean I explore many of the mechanics in the game. You see, when I level a new character, if I'm not just pumping a ton of levels up on it through tomes, I'm rushing through. I rarely look at their gear. I buy a bunch of the white stuff from NPCs whenever I hit a new level threshold, and sometimes I even forget to do that, and it doesn't matter, because everything's really easy. What you just saw at the start of this video was, yes, me playing with a friend who barely used any abilities. The entire mission for that stage of the personal story was to defeat that one effigy boss, and we slaughtered him. I'm not an overpowered character. I did that mission as soon as I possibly could. See, they made a big change with Feature Pack 2. They said, alright, you can only do your level 10 story steps, like 5 of them in a row, once you hit level 10. You can only do the level 20 stuff once you hit level 20, and so on. An honourable idea, maybe. It means that people aren't doing random personal story steps all over the place and forgetting and losing the plot, and hopefully they'll be more invested. But here's the problem. When you get to level 20 and you start doing your personal story, they've tuned it to be so easy that you're already face rolling everything when you are level 20, when you are in shoddy hodgepodge gear with barely any utility skills, barely any hero points. It's still face roll easy. Then by the time you're like 3 personal story steps down the line, you may have leveled up once, twice, 3 times even. And then it's just a complete joke. So you get quests like this, you get missions like this, where you're supposed to actually care something about the Black Citadel. You're supposed to be concerned about this looming Flame Legion threat that's been building over that entire arc, poorly in the first place, and then it culminates in basically using each of the skills on your skill bar just once and the damn thing dies. And this happens constantly, and it's a huge problem for two reasons. Number one, it undermines the strength of the story completely. That line that comes after, oh, I'm glad you were at this Black Citadel to help us. Really? Really, were you happy about that, Ritlock? Does it not feel like I could have just stood there and watched as all the other NPCs killed the effigy for me? It undermines the story, stops you caring about that, but most importantly, it means while I'm out there in the world, when I mine something at a low level and I find a garnet pebble, I don't care about slotting that garnet pebble into my gear. I don't care about speaking to the various karma vendors and finding better trinkets to equip myself for. I don't care about the loot that's dropping for me. I don't care about any of it because none of it matters. Nothing in this game is remotely difficult from the start all the way to end game. This is not a problem that just exists for us at level 80. And so then how do we start seeing the personal story? It was written poorly in the first place, far too short for what it should have been. You know, building our warband could have been this excellent, awesome adventure, and then it ends up just a couple of missions. We get like a couple of lines of dialogue from each new character we meet, and that's that. And they don't even pose some kind of exciting gameplay challenge for us that allows us to feel like that cool drop we got actually means something. No, we just start seeing the personal story as XP generation. We start thinking of the game as just like every other MMO that we're not really having fun right now. We're just doing the personal story because, hey, it's there and it gives us some more XP and some reasonable loot at the end. We want to get to level 80. Guild Wars 2 hemorrhages players because they're not having fun as they level. They're not incentivized to spend the gold they're earning, so they don't feel rewarded when they do stuff that gives them gold. We're not incentivized to craft stuff for ourselves or open chests that exist around the world, speak to vendors that open after events. None of it, because it simply does not matter. And let me clarify something. My perspective here is not being warped or biased, owing to the fact I'm a veteran player who already knows a lot about the game and understands what's really powerful. Yes, that has a role to play, but very specifically, this character you're seeing that blew up that effigy so easily is a character that has had no interaction from anything else on my account whatsoever. Before creating this character, I made sure I had no gold. I made sure that I got rid of all of my crafting materials. I made sure that not a single thing on this character has been influenced by something collected from someone elsewhere. I've not even allowed myself to buy any gear from the trading post or vendors that are not heart vendors. There's not much that this character has, and yeah, the game really is this easy and dismissive. And so it kind of dawned on me last night, you know, as I did this mission, as I finished this effigy mission, you know, I'm doing so much. I've added so many rules, long, bloated rules, unwieldy concepts that I'm trying to keep as simple as possible, all in an attempt to, like, wrestle Guild Wars 2 into a state where it's really fun to level. And even with all of this stuff, I'm still failing. It still doesn't work. Like, the game is broken beyond repair, and that felt pretty terrible. It had been dragging me down as I was doing more and more missions recently, and then this one came up. I just could not believe it. I had to record it again and show you guys. I really want to hear what you all think about this, because this is so frustrating. You know, Guild Wars 2 must hemorrhage players who get in there, see like a terribly subpar story, uninteresting mechanics that don't really mean much anyway, push themselves to 80, not even having that much fun, and then quit. You know, a lot of them, I bet, quit even before getting to level 80. You know, you grind up those levels for level 10, and then you do those first 5 personal story steps, and they are just atrocious. And I find it so hard to come up with a solution. You know, things I've been toying with are the idea of, oh, hey, you cannot dodge rolls, so if you're going to go for a fight, you really have to commit. And that rule's not ideal in the first place, because it means things like Vigor are completely useless. It means a lot of traits from trait lines like Acrobatic Thieves, Evasive Arcana Elementalists suddenly don't mean anything. But I don't know, it doesn't matter about any of that anyway, because even if you can't dodge, the game is still face roll easy. We joke that there are players who don't know there's a dodge roll in the game at level 80, but I swear to God, I can see that happening so easily, as you just have very little incentive to ever press that button the entirety of 1 to 80. The really sad thing to me, though, is when I did this last summer before Feature Pack 2, before we were forced to be the same level as our personal story, at which point we're already massively overpowered, you actually had the choice of doing personal story steps while you were a little bit under-leveled. And this was fun. If you played about 4 levels to 5 levels under-leveled, suddenly things were a bit of a challenge. Suddenly enemies were hitting you a reasonable amount of damage. Suddenly you cared about having power on your gear, because otherwise fights would take a really long time to complete. There's none of that anymore. Even back then, things things weren't ideal. Even back then, you could cheese stuff out with AI companions. Even back then, you would come across dangerous supposed bosses that would have wind-ups on their attacks that take 5-6 seconds to execute, plenty of time to dodge out of the way, and even if you don't, even if you take it head-on, it's going to do like 5% of damage to you. That was even while underleveled, and now that isn't even an option anymore. It's so sad that there is something mildly engaging just out of reach at all times, but it's now impossible to reach that because ArenaNet are forcing us to be level 20, and their balance for when you're level 20 doing a level 20 quest or level 40 doing a level 40 quest or any number you may pick is treating us like 6-year-olds with the difficulty scale they have in place. I'm not saying early game personal story should be really difficult, but I'm saying that at least once I'm quarter of the way through leveling on the game, there should be some reason for me to care about the loot I'm getting and everything I've already mentioned. And if they're still worried after all of that players still won't have a grasp, they're too scared of the personal story being too hard, I'm imploring them, one day can we at least get like a hard mode or a re-leveling feature so that we can actually get a more engaging version of playing through the game. But that isn't perfect to me. I think even new players are craving something more. I've been playing games like Divinity Original Sin recently, lots of AAA RPGs where you really get those experiences that Guild Wars 2 just doesn't give you at all. So, I guess what I'm trying to say, guys, is I'm very frustrated. I know, this isn't a priority, and I don't think this should be something they start working on right away with Heart of Thorns coming and lots of new content. Hell, a lot of us knew about this with the personal story a long time ago. But Guild Wars 2 has got a serious issue with how boring and poorly scaled and designed a lot of its early game content is. And let me ask you this, does it matter how good the level 80 stuff is or the Heart of Thorns stuff is? When most players come in, this is the first time they see, they spend a lot of hours on this, and they never get to the good stuff? Really? For those of you guys who have been looking out for the leveling challenge and the streaming and stuff, bear with me. Hopefully there'll be some rule I can invent that makes this somewhat challenging, like you can only wear gear that's 20 levels lower than your combat level currently is. I don't know, but it's going to take a lot of testing. ArenaNet really broke this. They broke this to the point where it's almost impossible to make the game a challenge while exploring its systems. I learned that a long time ago when I realized just having a bear on a ranger means you never get attacked. Okay, it's a couple of hours since I recorded that rant. Thank you to anyone who listened through it all. So that this isn't just a mindless video complaining about stuff we already knew about. I do have a question for you guys, because I think the root of my real frustrations here and worries are that it seems no one in the community is asking for this to be changed, and ArenaNet doesn't seem to have it in their sights to change at all either. Do you guys think that a change to the personal story is warranted at some point? Are you worried like I am that this really cripples the size of our community, the amount of people who come in, the amount of people who respect Guild Wars 2 as an RPG for its leveling and an RPG for its story, both of which are terrible as you go through the game? Do you guys think these are serious issues we should actually look at? I'm scared that no one really does, and that ArenaNet don't see the value in changing it, and we may be stuck with a Guild Wars 2 that just has this terrible, terrible experience the whole way through the game. I could give countless more examples. I don't think this just plagues the early game gameplay. There's a particular quest in Ore that is all about some dangerous sniper who has been picking off members of the Derman Pride right near the end of the game. I actually caught some footage of that a while ago, which you can probably see happening in this video. So yeah, let's talk about this. Do you guys think this should be changed? That's a question to you. Am I overreacting? Someone convince me that this is an overreaction, because it really cuts at me deep. I can see what Guild Wars 2 could be, and it's just falling short. So let's have a discussion. If they're going to change it, when? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. What happened to Guild Wars 1 and the old campaign missions we used to love and enjoy? What happened?
We can't have that kind of peace-loving, low-down poltroon talk. Did the Risen strike